Well, for more on the French parliamentary election, let's cross over to our correspondent in Paris, Ross Cullen. Ross, a very good morning to you. Perhaps you can give us a bit of an understanding and a mood that is dominant in where you are, I imagine, in Paris, following that second round of voting and seeing a lot of protestation taking place last night.
Well, French people are waking up this morning to a political earthquake in terms of the results from the decisive second round on Sunday. The fact that the new Popular Front, the left-wing coalition, managed to win the greatest number of seats and not, as was widely predicted, the far-right National Rally. They have come third and they have scored their best ever result, but they are still far from being able to form a government. That's what all the talk was about. Can they form a government? Will they get a majority? Will France have its first far-right government since the Second World War? And the French public have answered with no thank you. They have voted for Emmanuel Macron's centrist alliance. They have voted for the four left-wing parties under the umbrella coalition of the new Popular Front. And there are now demands from the left-wing that Emmanuel Macron accept the resignation letter from his prime minister and instead appoint a new premier from the left.
Well, it certainly looks like this is going to be a very long couple of months that lie ahead, with what could potentially be quite a gridlock in terms of negotiations without a clear outright winner. What does it look like ahead for the people of France and these?
We're likely to see
talks?
weeks and. Yeah, so I lost your question there, but we're likely to see weeks and months of political paralysis now ahead, particularly during the Olympic Games. That'll be a point of focus for the government, wanting to avoid instability then, when millions of people are expected here in the French capital for the Olympics and then later on in the summer the Paralympics. But when no one party has a majority, when no one bloc or alliance has a majority, then there's going to be very hard to try to find the areas of common ground, the areas of a shared ideology and shared political projects where they can move forward. For example, the biggest party on the left under this umbrella, winning some 78 seats, is France Unbowed, a far-left party that wants to immediately repeal President Macron's pension reforms that were passed last year, raising the retirement age to 64 from 62. How would Emmanuel Macron's party react to the dismantling of his own reforms? Would they be able to find common ground with the left-wing coalition? So we are in not just for days, but likely weeks of horse trading and manoeuvring as the parties see if they can come together to form a coalition with a majority.
Yeah, and that sounds like a tough situation to be in. But is there any reasoning behind what led to the far right dropping to third after winning the first round of voting?
Yes, there is. The centrist government and the left-wing opposition came together and agreed not to field candidates against one another in the areas where there were runoff races. They wanted to ensure there was no split in the anti-far-right vote, and the strategy seems to have worked. Voters did see certain candidates withdrawing to ensure that there was no split, so they would have all the support of the anti-far-right coalescing around just one candidate, and that seems to have paid off. The far-right have got more than 140 seats, their best ever result, but they are still in third, even behind Emmanuel Macron's party, and we know disapproval ratings for the president are so high. So that strategy seems to have worked. It certainly was Jordan Bardella, the far-right leader. His opinion of what happened last night was there was an unholy alliance between the left-wing opposition and the centrist government that did put an end to the expectations that the far right would win the election.
So just before I let you go, obviously this is a very different voting system to what we have, but 2 rounds of voting. Is this the final round? Is there more to come, or is this pretty much so what the picture looks forward, and now it's just a matter of trying to find a middle road and those months that lie ahead?
Yeah, France has this unique system where it's 2 rounds of voting. So if you don't win a majority of votes in the first round, you're not elected as the MP. Anybody who receives more than 12% of the vote share can move forward to the second round. Always takes place a week later. The same thing in the presidential election. If no one candidate gets 50% in the first round, then they all go through to a second round, the top 2 candidates in a face-off. But what happened in France over the last 2 weeks is that we've seen such a high turnout. It meant that sometimes it wasn't 2 candidates going to the runoff, it was 3 or sometimes even 4 candidates. So that risked a huge split of the vote. That's why the government and the opposition said we can't have 3 anti-far right candidates standing. Let's just have 1. 2 of you withdraw. We'll have 1 going up against the far right, and then the public, clearly going by these projected results, have chosen not to back the populists.